possibly going to be seeing some more in the future updates. Now, Black Ops 7 finally listening to feedback. You know, there's been big battle between Black Ops 7 and Battlefield 6. This has been like the biggest talk of 2025 probably. And the thing is, because Battlefield, you know, was actually pretty good. It surprised everyone. And now a lot of people are talking, the Black Ops sucks. It's not going to do well. But man, once we saw these type of updates, it really makes you think. I personally think Black Ops has a lot of potential here.
I'd love to have in the community. But for now, let's get into it. So let's start out with some of the stuff that pertains to like gameplay details. There was another dev talk that was revealed today by Treyarch, something that they put out a quick little snippet a couple of days ago and then asked for even more questions. Now we've actually had more information.
So yeah, it does seem like they are actually going through with it and, doubling down on what seems to be, their plan to make the community happy. And that's what I really like to see, right? Actually listening and going far ahead for it. So yeah, that is a huge news overall.
To be the case here as much within Black Ops 7. And they also seem to be taking the design approach of classic maps and applying them here to Black Ops 7, like the philosophy of how they make these, with 3-lane maps being the North Star for these map designs. That was something that has deviated a little bit in the past, but they're going to predominantly again focus on 3-lane maps. Whether they're symmetrical or asymmetrical, we don't know that detail just yet, but 3-lane.
Yeah, personally, I'm not too scared about the maps. There's gonna be they're always like there's always one map that's really bad, and then there's 10 maps that are really good, right?
Maps will be that North Star for how a lot of these will work. Inside these maps, it's mentioned there are no manual doors. Probably a nice thing to see coming out of the last couple of years where it's been a staple in the multiplayer and thus Warzone side of things as well. They did mention that there are a few automatic doors, like Drone from Black Ops 2 was one that was mentioned in particular by Matt Schranz.
I mean, these maps just look perfect when you remember, people are looking for a sense of nostalgia, and that's what they're getting now. They're getting a sense, okay, this is like the old times when I played Black Ops 2. So yeah, these are definitely going to have some different types. Like a lot of people were complaining about flying and stuff. I'm not too worried about it.
Though I will say Black Ops 4, I think, is probably the better example here of that, because there were a ton within Black Ops 4. But that's going to be something you see those. If there's any visual cutoff of lanes, it's going to be something that is activated by walking up to it. They also mentioned that Black Ops 2 remasters will be coming, and that we could end up seeing a couple of these relatively shortly after launch, with the leading theories being Yemen and Meltdown, where Matt Schranz gave a little bit of a...
I mean, why not both?
A preview that some of these maps, these
both.
throwbacks, would be Black Ops 2 competitive search and destroy maps. Maps that we haven't quite seen as well remastered since then. So both of those options definitely classics in the competitive space, but looking forward to seeing those return, and they should be returning relatively shortly after launch. Additionally, Matt Schranz ended up going a bit further beyond just this video and talked about a few things on Twitter, where he mentioned that health bars are going to be aimed to be something that makes it into the beta, but as a toggleable item. So if you like to see that health bar above an enemy player's name, you will end up seeing that, or you can turn it off. Though it was not guaranteed that would be the case.
I'm not too much of a fan of health bars.
It is something that looks to be the end goal here. I would imagine if it's not in for beta, it's at least in there for launch. And they also mentioned that TTK is looking to be about the same as Black Ops 6. Now, that's probably hit or miss for some people. Some people maybe love Black Ops 6's TTK. Some maybe think it's a little too fast still. But that's something that at least you have the baseline of understanding.
I personally think it's too fast. It's way too fast for me, but the weapons they're releasing, they're faster TTK in my opinion.
Of how a lot of those gunfights
Just look at
will
Warzone.
Go. Honestly, I appreciate this kind of transparency and ease of access to answers. I do hope there's more dev talks here in the near future. Honestly, if this was like a weekly discussion, that'd be, I think, really cool, giving answers to the community and these questions that players will have in as rapid a session as possible to keep that conversation and the intrigue there where possible. This might have been done to provide more context and stuff that may not have been able to be stressed on in the initial reveal, or it might have been done to rehabilitate some of the early reception of the game. But whatever the reason, I don't really care. I'm just happy that we're seeing this open communication with the community, as I say every single year. I think that is a super nice thing to have. I just hope that it keeps up throughout the year, though, of course, historically speaking, it hasn't been this level of transparency all year round. But beyond that, we also did see some direct changes already being made, where Treyarch recently announced the change to the Vault Edition items in the aims to keep with the more thematic cohesion of Black Ops 7.
Nice. Here, where I feel like is a big problem is the vaults can get super expensive for some people. Don't you guys understand, like, you are buying a pre-release, and I'm all up for it, especially for us content creators. The issue is it is very expensive at this point at what you get for 20, while Treyarch kept adding more items into that.
They announced, in the spirit of addressing some recent feedback, we're making a few visual changes to some of the Vault Edition operators, starting with our favorite post-apocalyptic bus driver. We think it's pretty face-melting. Now, side by side, you can tell that there have been a few changes done, the face for the operator being the biggest part here of it. It's a bit more of a crazier skin design overall, sure.
I really like the AI feel of this. Like, it looks super nice, to be honest. Look at that. Absolutely amazing. Like, look at this detail from the particles.
But not as out there as it was, and it's now kind of in line with previous Vault Edition skins that have been a little out there. Also, it's at least a bit more in line with Black Ops 2 throwbacks and, again, the thematic cohesion of what we see with Black Ops 7 overall, with us now being explicitly Ted's face rather than a random-looking operator over top a robot's body.
Nice.
However, the phrasing of "we're making
a lot of people were complaining about that. We're making a few visual changes to some of the Vault Edition operators, starting with our favorite post-apocalyptic bus driver. Again, a lot of people were asking for that, and it got improved. And I think here the skins look super awesome anyway. I don't see anyone complaining about that. I just feel like they don't like futuristic games.
I'm not entirely sure how you change the Reaper skin unless you just get rid of Reaper altogether, which won't happen, but both direct adjustments based on feedback for skins. But probably the bigger change here, or the biggest change in feedback for skins in particular, is that Carry Forward was recently canceled. Now, this isn't necessarily brand new news. It was something that, again, I was out of town when this was announced, but it is something that Carry Forward in the larger aspect has been canceled thus far.
I kind of agree with this. The issue with this is because a lot of people, already have weapons unlocked, and everyone, like, at launch should have a fair chance to actually level up their gear, not have like a weapon that's absolutely pro and dominating.
What still will transfer is your Gobblegums and your double XP tokens, so your smaller things that are account-specific, stuff that is just gameplay modifiers like that, you will end up having the ability to have that. So if you are looking to grind out weapons, prestige, whatever the case at launch, or jumping in with some stuff for zombies immediately,
hi guys,
we'll
Mr.
have all
Waffles
of
here.
that.
Today we're going to be reacting
that at any point, but things like weapons, camos, operators, operator skins, calling cards, that kind of stuff, not going to be jumping over into Black Ops 7.
I mean, the calling cards were pretty amazing, but sad we're losing that, to be honest. But I'm pretty sure that's because Treyarch can now, like, Call of Duty can push more of their own new calling cards, which are going to get sold. That's my opinion.
As we saw with Modern Warfare 2 into...
Like, this is my opinion, is what's going to happen here is they're going to push that forward. So a lot of this will not go forward, but they don't care because so much new content will come in.
Modern Warfare 3. Now, on the surface, for the most part, it seems like it's a positive. It seems like it's in direct relation to what the community wanted. We'll touch on that in a second, but it's nice to say that we won't see Beavis and Butthead, Stan Smith, Roger, and that cast and crew of wacky collabs.
So again, this is what people were asking for. This is why I feel really good about the Black Ops game. They want to feel something authentic.
Coming over into Black Ops 7 this year from day one, having at least a little bit more in terms of the thematic cohesion. Now, I will say it was nice that this stuff wasn't going to transfer until Season 1. I think that in the sense of the thematic look of the game, having that preseason to itself was something that I was at least okay with that.
I feel like in terms of lore, it needs to be a realistic, at launch. They're marketing it as a realistic game, so it should be at least somehow real.
But I certainly didn't expect them to just get rid of everything coming like that. Now, the larger conversation, when you start to think at it, with back-to-back content is something that is interesting because I think it could have been better if it was like pick or choose, not an all or nothing type of thing. Because, for example,
we're already getting some goodies for pre-ordering the game.
Content that's going to have a lot of one-to-one parity that's now going to be missing. So you're going to have operators and skins that would be there again that you might have to rebuy, that are just completely neglected. whatever the case. I think ultimately from an aesthetic perspective, it's a net positive, but I think the easier thing would have just been to do a skin filter. And I think that that would have made everybody happy at that point.
I think that's something they could add later in the game, right?
You allow people that want their stuff to carry over and what they paid for to go into the next game. They're happy. The people that don't want to see Beavis and Butthead, they're happy. That kind of stuff. It would have just been super easy, I think, to please everyone with that. And it's weird because like the tech has been there for years. I always come back to it with the CDL because when I first learned about it was a bit mind-blowing. Like for the dumbest reason, because of course it makes sense for it to work. But I think it was like a Cold War or Vanguard match. I noticed that in a match between Atlanta and Toronto, a FaZe player picked up a weapon off Toronto, and the camo was a FaZe camo, which at first glance, it's not any sort of conspiracy or anything crazy until you realized, wait a second, that gun just had a Toronto camo on it from the last second in that point of view. From a viewing purpose for a cohesive environment and likely to push more sales of team packs, the Codcast or broadcast view would apply the team pack camo to the corresponding team in real time. Thus, a filter of some kind, whereas the pros may not have had any camo enabled or some camo differently altogether, but not something that you end up seeing on the broadcast. Additionally, we've also seen it before with platform exclusive stuff, where either one, they just won't show up if they're on, say, Xbox or PC, where historically PlayStation has had the exclusives. Funnily enough, there's actually something that went a step further sometimes, where those skins just sometimes were not in the game files. Like the Oni operator and the M4 blueprints, those were on PlayStation, but truly, like the Xbox and PC versions did not have those assets in the game files. They were just straight up not there until about a year later when that exclusivity window was ending. So if you were to pick up one of those guns or kill an operator that wasn't Oni, they were just a default operator or default M4. But that wasn't always the case. So
I mean, I pretty much agree that, you know, no carry forward also means everybody, as I said, every single pro player in Black Ops 6, he will have to grind for the weapons, for the skins, for the everything, and everyone will have a same feeling. At least, you know, when streamers play day one, they don't want to see random skins flying around. They want to see what Black Ops 7 is really about.
Tech is and has been there, and I think that's really all people needed for those that made a fuss about the cohesive aesthetic of the game. Personally, I don't care about all the skins. Sure, push the boundaries a bit, but at least to me, have a visual identity that doesn't go from like a 3D to cel-shaded 2D animation style and have that all running around in the same environment. A filter would have been the best option for all of that, I think. Those who value those purchases again in Black Ops 6 can have them carry over into the next game and don't have any feeling of loss, while those sick of them can just have the appearances turned off. Just feel like that would have been the easier thing, but anyways, carried forward in the broader perspective is canceled. But all in all, I'm actually pleasantly surprised that we're seeing changes in this kind of communication right up front. The game does objectively have some stuff that I think is really cool coming this year. The problem that I've said from day one, though, is how do you get people in the door and justify that $70 price tag on what, especially at reveal, was an offering that appeared to be just a thematic skin change of Black Ops 6 and a campaign that showcased, first and foremost, nothing that was really all that great for people. Like, I still think that the handling of how things were presented to the public was just very poorly done. Like, if you look at the trailer differences, the reveal trailer, a mind-bendy, futuristic, and like super jump and kind of super soldier looking campaign, has 47 million views. Now the most viewed trailer in COD history, by the way. Most of that I would imagine though coming from like embedded ads and such, but point still stands. It's the most viewed trailer in COD history. Black Ops 7's direct that actually goes into changes, what's different, the new features and content, explaining things concisely, and actually giving a lot of context to things that are important to know, 364,000 views. The thing that could have cleared up a lot of the frustration.
That's the issue. Like, their communication is pretty much off at this point. Like, they aren't really going 100% of communicating. I feel like some of the communication they have could be much better, basically. And that worries me sometimes a bit. But, I mean, it's not forever like this. It's just that they need probably a better team, because a lot of people were complaining at the start. Now they're suddenly, you know, not feeling upset about it. So just, you know, it's going to be probably much better. Like, Call of Duty is going to be much better than we think.
Frustration and angry feelings, I think, from day one has less than 1% of the total views of the trailer that everyone saw and a lot of people disliked. So, like, from the get-go, they had their work cut out for them, but I do like that they're trying to claw their way back. They're trying to make these changes in accordance with
I mean, a lot of people who are calling, you know, Black Ops Battlefield 7 is the best. I feel this narrative has completely changed now. This narrative is completely different than it is before. So let that just sink in.
Your feedback with communication in the community and transparency there. So for that, I'm all for it, man. Bring it on. It is going to be something that if they can keep this up, I think you start to climb back uphill a little bit. And I know, again, the biggest thing is it going to be worth that $70? That's still subjective, and it's still something that, yes, there is cool stuff on the other side of it, but they have to make it worth, I think, to the general public to make it something worth getting to the other side. But anyways, that's where we're going to wrap it up. Wanted to fill you guys in on some...
That's a pretty good video, to be honest. I pretty much agree everything with that. It is a very fair point.